Dr. Lisa Parker stared at her computer screen in the dark observatory. The numbers made no sense. Something big was moving toward Earth, but her instruments could barely detect it. She had been watching space for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. She picked up her phone and called her boss. "Dr. Williams, you need to see this right now." "Lisa, it's 3 in the morning. Can't this wait?" "No, it can't. Something is coming toward Earth. Something huge." Dr. Williams arrived 30 minutes later. He looked tired and angry until he saw the data on Lisa's screen. His face went white. "How many objects are there?" he asked. "At least 12, maybe more. They're using some kind of technology that makes them almost invisible to our sensors." "How big are they?" Lisa's hand shook as she typed. "Each one is at least 2 miles long. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours. Dr. Williams grabbed his phone and started making calls. First the military, then NASA, then the president's science advisor. Everyone told him the same thing. They would look into it. They would check with their own people. They would get back. To him, nobody believed them. In Denver, Jake Morrison was getting ready for work when his phone rang. Jake was a captain in the Air Force, stationed at Cheyenne Mountain. The call came from his commanding officer. "Jake, get to the mountain now. Something big is happening." "What kind of something?" "The kind that might end the world. Move fast." Jake drove through the empty streets as the sun came up. The radio played. Normal music. People walked their dogs and went to coffee shops. Nobody knew that in 3 hours everything would change forever. At Cheyenne Mountain, Jake found chaos. Officers ran between rooms carrying files and shouting orders. Computer screens showed satellite images of space. Jake had never seen so many people look so scared. General Rick Hayes called everyone into the main briefing room. "People, we have a situation. Unknown objects are approaching Earth. They're big, they're fast, and they're not answering our radio calls." The room fell silent. "How long do we have?" asked Colonel Amy Foster. 2 hours. Maybe less. In Washington, President Helen Carter sat in the Situation Room with her top advisors. On the big screen, they could see fuzzy images of the approaching ships. "What do we know about them?" she asked. "Nothing," said Defense Secretary Robert King. "They appeared out of nowhere. No heat signatures, no radio signals, no response to our communications. Are they weapons? We don't know. But ma'am, they're heading straight for Denver." President Carter felt cold. Denver had almost 3 million people. If these were weapons, millions could die. "Get me the mayor of Denver on the phone. Start evacuation procedures." "Ma'am, we can't evacuate 3 million people in 2 hours. Then get as many out as you can." In Denver, Emma Rodriguez was walking to school with her mother when the sirens started. Emma was 8 years old and had never heard sirens like these before. They were loud and scary, and they didn't stop. "Mom, what's happening?" Her mother grabbed her hand tight. "I don't know, baby, but we need to go home right now." They turned around and started running. All around them, other people were running too. Cars honked their horns. Police drove by with their sirens on. Everyone looked afraid. Emma's mother got a text on her phone. She read it and her face went white. "What does it say, Mom?" "It says we need to leave the city right now." But they were too late. The ships appeared in the sky without warning. One moment the sky was blue and empty. The next moment, 12 huge black ships hung over Denver like dark clouds. They were bigger than anything Emma had ever seen. Bigger than buildings. Bigger than mountains. The ships made no sound. At Cheyenne Mountain, Jake watched the satellite feed in horror. The alien ships had positioned themselves in a perfect circle around Denver. Strange blue light began to shine down from each ship. "What are they doing?" Jake asked. Nobody answered because nobody knew. The blue light touched the ground and began to spread. Everything it touched stopped moving. Cars stopped in the middle of the street. Birds stopped flying and hung in the air. People stopped walking and stood like statues. "It's some kind of stasis field," whispered a scientist. "They're freezing everything in time." Then the ships began to lift. The blue light formed a dome around the entire city. As the ships rose higher, the dome lifted with them. Denver was being pulled up from the earth like a piece of fruit being picked from a tree. Jake watched in shock as an entire city was stolen from his planet. Buildings, people, cars, trees, everything inside the blue dome rose into the sky. Where Denver used to be, there was now only a perfectly round hole in the ground. The ships moved faster now. They carried Denver up through the atmosphere and into space. In minutes, they were gone. They vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, taking 3 million people with them. President Carter stared at the empty crater where Denver used to be. She had been president for 2 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. How do you tell the world that aliens just stole an entire city? "Ma'am," said General Hayes over the phone, "we're getting reports from around the world. Other governments are asking what happened. The whole world saw this on satellite TV." "What do I tell them?" "The truth. Aliens came to Earth. They took Denver and everyone in it. And we couldn't stop them." Dr. Lisa Parker sat in her car outside the observatory crying. She had tried to warn everyone she had seen the ships coming, but nobody listened until it was too late. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Williams. "Lisa, the government wants to talk to you. They want to know everything you saw. They want to know how to track these aliens." "Why?" "They're gone. Denver is gone. Because they might come back. And next time, we need to be ready." Around the world, people watched the news in shock. Aliens were real. They had taken an entire American city. They had treated humans like cattle being loaded onto a truck. The question everyone asked was the same. Would they come back? In the black ships moving through space, the aliens called Kethamori studied their new specimens. 3 million humans would provide excellent research data. The creatures seemed primitive but showed interesting social behaviors. The Kethamori had harvested dozens of species across the galaxy. This was just another routine collection. They would study the humans, use them for various purposes, and return to harvest more in 50 years. They had no idea they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had no idea that humans don't forget, and they don't forgive. 3 months after Denver disappeared, the world had changed completely. Every government on Earth was building weapons. Every scientist was studying the alien technology. Every person on the planet knew that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Dr. Lisa Parker worked 18 hours a day in her new laboratory. The government had given her unlimited money and the best equipment in the world. Her job was simple: figure out how the alien ships worked and how to track them. "The energy patterns are unlike anything we've ever seen," she told her team. "These aliens can bend space itself. That's how they appeared so suddenly and vanished so fast." Her assistant, Dr. Tony Blake, was a weapons engineer who had been building missiles for the military. Now he was trying to understand alien technology. "The blue stasis field left traces in the ground," Tony said. "I've been analyzing the residue for weeks. I think I'm starting to understand how it works. Can we duplicate it? Maybe. Give me another month." In Washington, President Carter met with her military leaders every day. The whole country was mobilizing for war. Factories that used to make cars now made spacecraft parts. Companies that built computers now worked on weapon systems. "How many ships can we build?" President Carter asked. General Hayes looked at his papers. "If we convert every factory in America, maybe 50 ships in 2 years. But we don't know if our weapons will work against alien technology. Then we build 100 ships and we make sure our weapons work." The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Emma Rodriguez had survived because she was outside Denver when the aliens came. Her school bus had broken down 2 miles from the city. She watched from the roadside as the aliens stole her home, and everyone she knew. Now Emma lived with her aunt in Phoenix. She didn't talk much anymore. But she drew pictures, lots of pictures, all of the alien ships. Emma's aunt showed the drawings to a government scientist who was visiting Phoenix. The scientist stared at the drawings for a long time. "These patterns," he said. "These aren't random. This little girl drew mathematical equations." The drawings were sent to Dr. Lisa Parker immediately. Lisa spread the drawings across her desk and studied them for hours. Emma had drawn the alien ships from different angles. showing details that no satellite had captured. But more importantly, she had drawn the energy patterns around the ships. "My God," Lisa whispered. She saw their navigation system. Lisa called Emma's aunt. "I need to talk to Emma. Right now." 2 days later, Emma sat in Lisa's laboratory. The little girl was quiet and shy, but she answered Lisa's questions. "Emma, how did you know to draw these patterns?" "I saw them. When the ships came, there were lines of light connecting them, like a spiderweb made of blue fire. Did anyone else see these lines?" "I don't think so. Maybe they only show up for kids, or maybe you have to be scared enough." Lisa showed Emma a computer model of space around Earth. "Emma, if you saw those ships again, could you tell me where they went?" Emma studied the screen. She was only 8 years old, but her eyes were older now. She pointed to a section of the screen. They went that way, toward the bright star. The bright star was Sirius. Lisa's team immediately began scanning that region of space with every telescope they could find. In Texas, Greg Adams was converting his technology company into a weapons manufacturer. Greg had built the world's biggest smartphone company, but now he was building something else. Humanity's first faster-than-light spacecraft. Greg had hired every physicist and engineer he could find. He offered them unlimited budgets and one simple goal: build ships that could catch the aliens. "The key is the quantum field generator," Greg told his lead engineer, Dr. Amy Foster. Amy had been designing spacecraft for NASA before the aliens came. Now she was designing warships. "If we can copy their space-bending technology, we can build ships that travel faster than light," Amy said. "But it will take time." "How much time?" 2 years, maybe 3. "You have 1 year. In China, Russia, Europe, and Japan, similar projects were starting. Every major country was racing to build faster-than-light ships. The nation that succeeded first would lead humanity's response to the aliens. But Greg Adams had advantages. He had money, he had the best engineers, and he had Emma's drawings. 6 months later, Amy Foster stood next to humanity's first FTL spacecraft. It was small, built for speed and stealth rather than fighting. Its mission was simple: find the aliens and learn everything possible about them. The ship was called the UES Revenge. "Are you sure about this?" Greg asked Amy. "We don't know what's out there." "I'm sure," Amy said. "Someone has to go first." Amy climbed into the pilot's seat. The ship was mostly automated, controlled by the most advanced computer humanity had ever built, but it still needed a human pilot. The launch was secret. Only a few dozen people in the world knew that humanity's first faster-than-light flight was happening. Amy felt the ship's engines come online. The quantum field generator made a sound like singing. Space began to bend around the ship. "UES Revenge to control," Amy said into her radio. "I'm ready for jump." "Good luck, Amy," came Greg's voice. "Bring our people home." The ship vanished. Amy felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. The stars outside her window became long streaks of light. She was traveling faster than light, faster than anything human had ever traveled before. The journey to Sirius took 3 days. When Amy dropped out of FTL, she found herself in a system with 6 planets. Her sensors immediately detected artificial structures around the 4th planet. Amy activated her stealth systems and moved closer. What she found made her blood run cold. The aliens had built massive space stations around the planet. Each station was the size of a small city, and Amy could see familiar structures inside the stations, pieces of Denver. The aliens had taken Denver apart like a toy and were studying every piece of it. But Amy's sensors detected something else: life signs. "Human life signs. Control, this is Amy," she whispered into her radio, though she knew they were too far away to hear her. "I found them. I found Denver. The people are still alive." Amy spent 3 days watching the alien stations. She recorded everything: the alien ships coming and going, the layout of their defenses, the location of the human prisoners. But she also discovered something else. This wasn't just one alien outpost. This was part of a massive empire that stretched across dozens of star systems. The aliens called themselves the Kethmori, and they had been harvesting primitive species for thousands of years. Humanity wasn't their first victim. They were just the latest in a long line of species that had been collected, studied, and enslaved. Amy also learned something that made her angry. The Kethmori had scheduled another harvest of Earth in 50 years. They planned to take more cities, more people. They thought humans were just cattle. Amy began her journey home with data that would change everything. She had found the enemy. She knew where they lived. She knew how strong they were, and she knew that humanity was going to war. When Amy returned to Earth, she brought devastating news. The alien empire was vast and powerful. They had technology far beyond what humans possessed. They had been conquering species for millennia. But Amy also brought something else: hope. "They're not expecting us to fight back," Amy told the emergency meeting of world leaders. "Every species they've harvested before just accepted their fate. They think humans will do the same." President Carter looked at the data from Amy's mission. Hundreds of alien worlds, thousands of ships, millions of enslaved creatures from dozens of species. How do we fight something that big? Amy smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "We don't fight fair. We're not trying to conquer them. We're trying to kill them all." General Hayes nodded. "What do you need?" "Ships. Lots of ships. And weapons designed for one purpose: genocide." Dr. Tony Blake had been working on weapons while Amy was gone. He had figured out how to make antimatter bombs, virus bombs, and something new: nanomachine swarms that could eat entire planets. "We're not going to war," Tony said quietly. "We're going to commit extinction." Emma Rodriguez, now 9 years old, sat in her room in Phoenix and drew new pictures. These weren't pictures of alien ships anymore. These were pictures of human ships. Hundreds of them, all flying toward the stars. In her dreams, she could see the future. The aliens had made a terrible mistake when they took Denver. They had taught humanity to hate, and humans were very good at hatred. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of humanity's first battlecruiser, the UES Denver's Wrath. 2 years had passed since Amy Foster's scouting mission, and humanity had been busy. The ship around Kate was nothing like the exploration vessels humans had dreamed of building. This was a weapon designed for one purpose: killing aliens. Every system on the ship was built to destroy, to survive, and to strike fear into the hearts of humanity's enemies. "Admiral, the fleet is ready," reported Captain Ben Torres from the destroyer UES Vengeance. Behind him, 47 other human ships hung in space near Jupiter. Each ship was loaded with weapons that would have horrified humanity just 3 years ago. Kate looked at the tactical display. Her fleet was tiny compared to the alien armadas Amy had seen, but size wasn't everything. "Begin Operation First Strike," Kate ordered. The human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. Their target was a Kethmori outpost in the Vega system. According to Amy's intelligence, it was lightly defended and used mainly for processing captured species. It would be humanity's first real battle against the aliens. Kate had spent months planning this attack. The Kethmori expected conquered species to fight with honor, using traditional tactics and trying to minimize casualties. They had rules about warfare that had existed for thousands of years. Humans didn't care about alien rules. Dr. Tony Blake had developed new weapons specifically for this mission: antimatter bombs that could destroy entire space stations, nanomachine clouds that would eat through alien hulls like acid, and something Tony called hell wasps, tiny robot drones that would hunt down individual aliens inside their ships. But the most terrifying weapon was human creativity. Kate's fleet didn't just plan to attack the aliens. They planned to make sure the aliens understood what humanity was capable of. The fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vega system. Kate's sensors immediately detected the alien outpost, a massive station orbiting Vega's 4th planet, with 12 Kethmori ships docked around it. "Remember the plan," Kate said to her captains. "No survivors, no witnesses, no mercy." "Captain." Ben Torres took his destroyer straight toward the alien station. The Kethmori sensors detected him immediately, and began powering up their weapons, but Ben wasn't planning to fight a traditional space battle. When the aliens fired their first shots, Ben's ship was already accelerating to ramming speed. The Rio destroyer's hull had been reinforced and packed with antimatter explosives. Ben wasn't trying to win a fight. He was turning his ship into a guided missile. The Kethmori tried to destroy the incoming human ship, but their weapons weren't designed to stop a suicidal attack. Ben's ship slammed into the alien station at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion was visible from 3 planets away, but that was just the beginning. As the alien ships rushed toward the explosion, Kate's main fleet attacked from a different direction. Human ships didn't try to engage in honorable combat. They launched clouds of nanomachines that began eating through alien hulls. They fired antimatter torpedoes that punched through shields like they were made of paper, and they released the Hell Wasps. The tiny robot drones swarmed through the alien ships, hunting down individual crew members. The Wasps were programmed with detailed information about Kethmori biology. They knew exactly where to sting to cause maximum pain before death. Within 30 minutes, every alien ship was dead. Every alien in the system was dead. The space station was a cloud of glowing debris. But Kate wasn't finished. Dr. Sam Chen had developed something called the Reaper Protocol, self-replicating machines that could consume asteroids and turn them into more weapons. Kate released a Reaper swarm into the Vega system's asteroid belt. The machines would spend months consuming rock and metal, building copies of themselves and stockpiling weapons. If any Kethmori ships returned to Vega, they would find a system turned into a giant weapons factory. Kate's fleet jumped away, leaving no trace of their presence except for the dead aliens and the growing swarm of Reaper machines. News of the Eye. Vega attacks spread through the Kethmori Empire like wildfire. For the first time in their history, a harvested species had fought back. And they hadn't just fought back. They had committed genocide. Emperor Vexthul of the Kethmori called an emergency council meeting. The ancient alien ruler had overseen the harvesting of hundreds of species. He had never seen anything like what happened at Vega. They destroyed everything, reported Admiral Kethvar, the Empire's military commander. No survivors, no prisoners, no attempt at communication. They simply killed everyone and left. How is this possible? Emperor Vexthul asked. The humans were primitive when we harvested their city. They barely had spaceflight. They're not primitive anymore. Our intelligence suggests they've advanced their technology by centuries in just 3 years. And their tactics... Admiral Kethvar paused. They fight like animals. No honor, no rules, no mercy. Around the galaxy, other species began to take notice. The Kethmori had been the dominant power for millennia. They harvested weaker species and enslaved entire civilizations. Most conquered peoples eventually accepted their fate. But the humans, from Sol III, were different. Captain Amy Foster, now commanding her own ship, led the second wave of human attacks. Her target was a Kethmori research facility where captured humans from Denver were being studied. Amy's approach was different from Kate's direct assault. She used stealth and infiltration. Her ship, the UES Silent Fury, was designed to be invisible to alien sensors. Amy slipped past the facility's defenses and docked directly with the station. Then she and her crew went aboard with one mission: rescue the Denver survivors and kill every alien they found. The Kethmori scientists were not warriors. They were researchers who studied primitive species. They had never faced humans who were armed, angry, and looking for revenge. Amy's team moved through the station like hunting wolves. They rescued 30,000 Denver survivors who had been kept in stasis for experimentation. But they also found something else. Evidence that the Kethmori had harvested dozens of other species. Entire civilizations had been enslaved. Billions of intelligent beings were being used as test subjects, workers, and food. Amy made a decision that would define humanity's war against the aliens. She didn't just rescue the Denver survivors. She rescued everyone. Her ships left the research facility carrying 30,000 humans and 200,000 aliens from 40 different species. All of them had been slaves of the Kethmori Empire. All of them wanted revenge. When Amy returned to Earth, she brought more than rescued humans. She brought intelligence about the Kethmori Empire from species who had been fighting them for generations. She brought allies who knew alien technology and tactics. Most importantly, she brought proof that humanity wasn't alone in wanting the Kethmori extinct. Dr. Lisa Parker had been working on biological weapons while the fleet was attacking alien outposts. Using samples from the rescued aliens, she was developing diseases tailored to Kethmori physiology. "I can create viruses that will kill only Kethmori," Lisa told Admiral Sullivan. "Their immune systems have never encountered Earth-based diseases. We could wipe out their entire species with the right pathogen. Do it." President Carter, now calling herself the Terran president to reflect humanity's expanding influence, addressed the world from the ruins of Denver. Where the city used to be, humanity had built a massive memorial and weapons factory. "The aliens took our people," Carter said. "They thought we were cattle. They thought we would accept our fate like every other species they've conquered." The camera panned across the memorial, showing the names of every person who had been taken from Denver. They were wrong. Humanity doesn't kneel. Humanity doesn't surrender. And humanity doesn't forgive. Carter looked directly into the camera. "To any aliens watching this broadcast, you have made war on the wrong species. We are coming for you, all of you, and we will not stop until your empire is ashes and your species is extinct." The broadcast was transmitted on frequencies that would reach across the galaxy. Every species with radio technology would receive humanity's message. The message was simple. Earth was no longer a victim. Earth was a predator, and the hunt had begun. In the Kethmori capital, Emperor Vexthal watched the human broadcast with growing fear. In 3 years, the primitive apes from Sol III had become the most dangerous threat his empire had ever faced. "How many ships can they build?" he asked his advisors. "Our intelligence suggests they can produce 100 ships per month. Maybe more." "And how many ships do we have?" "Across the entire empire, about 50,000. Emperor Vexthal thought about the math. At current rates, the humans would have a larger fleet than the Kethmori within 20 years, and human ships were designed specifically for killing, while most Kethmori vessels were for transport and patrol. Send envoys to our subject species. Tell them they must contribute ships to defend the empire. Sir, many of our subject species are already in rebellion. They see what the humans are doing and they want to join them." Emperor Vexthal felt something he had never experienced before. The fear of extinction. The humans weren't just fighting a war. They were leading a galactic revolution against everything the Kethmori Empire represented, and they were winning. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of Earth's new space station, Terra Prime. Through the massive windows, she could see hundreds of human warships preparing for the largest military operation in galactic history, Operation Righteous. Fury would attack 17 Kethmori core worlds simultaneously. The goal wasn't conquest or negotiation. The goal was complete extermination of the Kethmori species. "Admiral, the fleets are in position," reported Captain Jake Morrison. Jake had been promoted after volunteering for 3 suicide missions that he somehow survived. Now he commanded the dreadnought UES Denver's Wrath, the most powerful ship humanity had ever built. Kate looked at the tactical display. Human fleets were positioned near 17 different star systems, each one ready to jump to their targets. Over 3,000 ships total, each one armed with weapons designed to kill aliens as efficiently as possible. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Sullivan," Kate said into her communication system. "Today we begin the final phase of our war against the Kethmori. Remember your orders. No prisoners, no mercy, no survivors." She paused, thinking about the Denver Memorial back on Earth. "Make them pay for what they took from us." 3,000 ships vanished into faster-than-light travel. Captain Jake Morrison's target was Kethmar Prime, the capital of the alien empire. His fleet of 200 ships faced the most heavily defended world in Kethmori space. Jake didn't care. His ship was loaded with planet-killer weapons, and he had volunteered to deliver them personally. The Denver's Wrath dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Kethmar system. Immediately, alarms began blaring as Kethmori sensors detected the human fleet. "Sir, we're detecting over 500 alien ships moving to intercept us," reported Jake's tactical officer. "Good. That means they're all in one place when we kill them." The battle for Kethmar Prime began with the largest space battle in galactic history, 500 Kethmori ships against 200 human vessels. The aliens should have won easily, but human ships weren't designed to fight fair. Jake's fleet launched every weapon they had carried. Antimatter missiles that could destroy ships in single hits. Nanomachine clouds that ate through alien hulls. Robot drones that swarmed enemy vessels like angry insects. Most terrifying of all were the human ships themselves. Many were equipped with suicide protocols that would detonate their own cores if they were about to be destroyed, taking nearby enemy ships with them. The Kethmori had rules about space warfare that had evolved over thousands of years. They tried to disable enemy ships rather than destroy them. They avoided civilian targets. They followed codes of honor that limited the scope of destruction. Humans followed no rules except victory. Within 2 hours, every Kethmori ship in the system was destroyed. But Jake's mission wasn't finished. His real target was the planet. Below Kethmar Prime was home to 8 billion Kethmori civilians. It was also where the Empire kept its most important prisoners, including thousands of humans from Denver, who were being used for advanced experiments. Jake's fleet descended toward the planet, but they didn't land. Instead, they began systematic orbital bombardment. Dr. Tony Blake had designed special weapons for this moment. Virus bombs that would kill only Kethmori. Nanomachine swarms that would consume alien cities but leave other species unharmed. And something new. Gravity bombs that would collapse entire regions of the planet. The bombardment lasted 18 hours. When it was finished, Kethmar Prime was a dead world. But Jake's ships also deployed rescue teams to save the human prisoners and any other species that had been enslaved by the Kethmori. They found 50,000 humans and 300,000 aliens from dozens of different species. All of the survivors had the same message. They wanted to join humanity's war against their former captors. Similar scenes played out across 17 star systems. Human. Fleets appeared without warning, destroyed all military resistance, and then systematically exterminated the Kethmori population of each world. But the humans also rescued every enslaved species they found. Entire civilizations that had been conquered by the Kethmori were freed in a single day. By the time Operation Righteous Fury was complete, the Kethmori Empire had lost its 17 most important worlds and over 100 billion citizens. More importantly, humanity had gained 3 million new allies from species that wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Emperor Vexthul sat in his emergency bunker on a hidden world at the edge of Kethmori space. In a single day, the humans had destroyed the core of his empire. Billions of his people were dead. Hundreds of worlds were in open rebellion. His military advisor, Admiral Kethvar, stood before him with devastating news. "The humans have biological weapons specifically designed to kill our species," the Admiral reported. "They're releasing modified viruses on every world they attack. Our people are dying even on planets the human fleet never visited." "How is this possible?" "They've been studying our biology for 3 years. Every sample they captured from Vega, every prisoner they rescued, every bit of data they gathered has been used to create weapons targeted at our species." Emperor Vexthul felt the walls of his empire crumbling around him. The humans hadn't just attacked his military, they had attacked his entire species. What about our allies? What about the other species in our empire? Most have joined the humans. They see what humanity is capable of, and they want to be on the winning side. Emperor Vexthul made the decision that would seal the fate of his species. He sent a message to Earth requesting a meeting to discuss peace terms. The message reached President Carter at the memorial in Denver. She read it while standing next to the wall that listed every person taken by the aliens 3 years. Vice Carter called Admiral Sullivan immediately. "They want to surrender," Carter said. "What are our terms?" "Complete and unconditional surrender, dismantling of their entire military, submission to human authority, and personal execution of every Kethmori who was involved in the Denver harvesting. And if they refuse, then we kill them all." The peace meeting took place on a neutral space station controlled by a species that had never been involved in the war. Emperor Vexthul arrived with a small diplomatic escort. President Carter arrived with Admiral Sullivan and an entire battle fleet. The Kethamori Emperor was ancient even by alien standards. He had ruled his empire for over 1,000 years and had overseen the harvesting of hundreds of species. He expected to negotiate with the humans like civilized beings. He was wrong. "These are humanity's terms," President Carter said, sliding a document across the table. "Complete surrender, dismantling of all Kethamori military assets, submission to human authority, reparations for every species you've enslaved, and execution of every individual involved in the Denver harvesting." Emperor Vexthul read the terms in shock. "These aren't peace negotiations. This is a demand for our extinction." "No," Admiral Sullivan said quietly. "This is mercy. You could already be extinct. We're offering you the chance to survive as our subjects. The galactic community will never accept human dominance. Other species will unite against you." President Carter smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Let me tell you what we've learned in the past 3 years. Every species in this galaxy has been waiting for someone strong enough to destroy you. We've already received messages of support from over 200 civilizations." She leaned forward. "You made one critical error in your calculations, Emperor. You assumed that harvesting Denver would be like harvesting every other species. You thought humans would accept our fate and submit to your authority," Admiral Sullivan continued. "You never considered that we might be different. You never considered that we might be predators instead of prey." President Carter stood up. "You have 24 hours to accept our terms. If you refuse, we will hunt down every member of your species and kill them. We will sterilize every world you've ever lived on. We will erase your empire so completely that future historians will struggle to prove you ever existed." Emperor Vexthul looked into the human president's eyes and saw something that terrified him more than death. Absolute certainty. The humans weren't bluffing. They weren't negotiating. They were stating facts. "You're talking about genocide." "No," President Carter said as she walked toward the door. "We're talking about justice. You harvested an entire human city. You treated us like cattle. Now you're going to pay the price for that mistake." She paused at the doorway. 24 hours, Emperor. Choose wisely." As the human delegation left, Emperor Vexthul realized that his empire was already dead. The question now was whether his species would survive to see tomorrow. Outside the space station, human ships waited in perfect formation. Each ship was a weapon pointed at the heart of what remained of the Kethamori Empire. The galaxy watched and waited to see if the ancient empire would surrender, or if humanity would complete their promise of extinction. Either way, everyone now understood that the age of Kethamori dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. 5 years after the Denver harvesting, Empress Helen Carter sat on a throne made from the melted remains of Kethamori warships. The throne room had once belonged to Emperor Vexthul, but now it was the center of humanity's growing galactic empire. Through the massive windows of the former alien palace, Helen could see the construction of humanity's first galactic capital. Where Kethmar Prime had once been the seat of alien tyranny, New Denver now rose from the ashes as the symbol of human dominance. "Empress, the morning reports," said her aide, bringing her a tablet displaying information from across the galaxy. Helen had stopped calling herself president 2 years ago. When you rule over 400 star systems and 36 species, presidential titles seem too small. The reports were routine now. Another Kethamori resistance cell discovered and eliminated. 3 more species requesting to join the Terran Empire. Construction proceeding on schedule for 50 new battleships. The galaxy had learned to fear and respect humanity. Fleet Admiral Amy Foster entered the throne room, still wearing her military uniform, despite her new role as Minister of Galactic Integration. Amy's job was to decide which alien species could be trusted and which needed to be eliminated. "The final Kethamori holdouts have surrendered," Amy reported. "The species is now officially extinct in the wild. We have about 50,000 specimens in containment facilities for research purposes." Helen nodded. The Kethamori had chosen extinction over surrender. For 2 years, human fleets had hunted down every member of the species across the galaxy. It had been thorough, systematic, and absolute. What about the other species? Most are adapting well to human rule. The Vexori have become excellent engineers. The Talani make good administrators. The Korath asked if they could join our military. Helen smiled. The Korath were a warrior species that the Kethamori had enslaved 300 years ago. Now, they wanted to serve in humanity's armies, hunting down any species that threatened the new galactic order. And the problems? Amy's expression darkened. The Nexari are still causing trouble. They keep talking about galactic law and species rights. Yesterday, one of their diplomats actually suggested that humans should be put on trial for genocide. Where is this diplomat now? Dead, along with his entire delegation. I had their ship blown up as soon as they left our space. Helen approved. The galaxy needed to understand that challenging human authority was not a political disagreement. It was suicide. Dr. Lisa Parker, now director of the Institute for Galactic Pacification, entered with her daily briefing. Lisa's job was to study alien species and determine the best methods for controlling or eliminating them. The biological weapons program is proceeding ahead of schedule, Lisa reported. We now have targeted pathogens for every known species in the galaxy. If any of them decide to rebel against human rule, we can eliminate them within weeks. Excellent. What about the research projects? We're making progress understanding how different alien minds work. The fear response varies significantly between species, but we've found effective methods for each one. Lisa's research had proven invaluable. Humans had discovered that most alien species could be controlled through carefully applied terror. A few public executions, some orbital bombardments of rebellious worlds, and the systematic elimination of anyone who spoke against human rule had created a galaxy where everyone knew their place. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the entire Sol Defense Fleet, brought news from Earth. The memorial construction is complete, Jake reported. We can now see it from orbit. The Denver Memorial had grown beyond anything originally planned. It now covered the entire area where Denver had once stood, with the names of every human killed by aliens carved in stone that could be seen from space. At the center of the memorial was a simple message: never again. But the memorial was more than just a monument. It was also humanity's primary weapons research facility, where scientists worked around the clock to develop new methods of galactic control. Emma Rodriguez wants to see you, Jake added. Emma was now 13 years old and had become something unexpected: humanity's most effective alien hunter. Her childhood drawings of alien ships had evolved into an almost supernatural ability to predict alien behavior and locate hidden bases. Emma entered the throne room with confidence far beyond her years. The little girl who had survived the Denver harvesting was now humanity's youngest admiral, commanding a fleet of ships crewed entirely by children who had lost families to alien attacks. Empress, we found them, Emma said simply. Found who? The ones who gave the Kethmori their harvesting technology. There's another empire in the Andromeda Galaxy. They've been watching what we did to the Kethmori, and they're coming here. Helen felt a familiar sensation. The thrill of a new enemy to destroy how many ships? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They call themselves the Eternal Dominion, and they've been conquering galaxies for millions of years. Amy Foster stepped forward. When will they arrive? 6 months. Maybe less. Helen stood up from her throne and walked to the window. Outside, construction crews were working on humanity's newest project, a ship so large it was being built around an entire moon. The UES extinction was designed for one purpose: destroying entire star systems. Admiral Foster, begin immediate mobilization of all human fleets. I want every species in our empire contributing ships and soldiers. What about the ones who refuse? Kill them. We don't have time for rebellion. Helen turned to Emma. Can we win? The 13-year-old admiral studied data on her tablet for several minutes. Her young face showed the calculation and ruthlessness that had become humanity's defining characteristics. Yes, Emma said finally. But we'll have to kill everyone in the Andromeda Galaxy to do it. Helen smiled. Then that's what we'll do? 3 months later, delegates from the Eternal Dominion arrived at the edge of human space. Their ships were massive and ancient, designed to inspire awe and fear in primitive species. The lead delegate was a being that called itself Supreme Overlord Zarathul. It had ruled the Eternal Dominion for over 50,000 years and had conquered 17 galaxies. Zarathul expected to negotiate with the dominant species of the Milky Way galaxy, perhaps offering them a junior partnership in exchange for submission to the Dominion's authority. Instead, it found itself facing Empress Helen Carter and Admiral Emma Rodriguez on the bridge of the UES extinction. "We are the Eternal Dominion," Zarathul announced through its translator. "We have watched your conflict with the primitive Kethmori. You show promise as a warrior species. We offer you a place in our empire." Helen looked at the alien delegate for a long moment. Then she began to laugh. "You offer us a place in your empire?" "Yes. You may serve as our military commanders in this galaxy. In exchange, we will allow your species to survive." Helen stopped laughing. Her voice became cold and deadly. "Let me explain something to you, Zarathul. 5 years ago, aliens harvested one of our cities. We responded by committing genocide against their entire species and conquering 400 star systems." She gestured toward Emma, who was studying tactical displays of the Dominion fleet. "This is Admiral Rodriguez. She's 13 years old, and she commands a fleet of ships crewed by orphaned children. Every single one of them has lost family members to aliens." Helen stepped closer to the alien delegate. "Now you come to our galaxy and offer to let us serve you. Do you understand how stupid that makes you sound?" Zarathul realized that something was very wrong. This wasn't how conquered species were supposed to behave. "You cannot fight the Eternal Dominion. We have conquered 17 galaxies. We have ships that can destroy stars. We have existed for millions of years." Emma Rodriguez looked up from her tactical display and smiled. It was the smile of a child who had learned to find joy in destruction. "Empress, their ships use the same basic technology as the Kethmori. Our weapons will be very effective against them." Helen nodded. "How long to eliminate their advance fleet?" "About 6 hours." Helen turned back to the alien delegate. "You have made the same mistake the Kethmori made. You assumed humans would be grateful for the chance to serve you." She walked toward the bridge's main display, which showed tactical information about every Dominion ship in the system. "Instead, you've given us a new enemy to kill and a new galaxy to conquer." Helen looked directly at Zarathul. "Thank you for that gift." The destruction of the Eternal Dominion's advance fleet took exactly 6 hours and 12 minutes. When it was finished, not a single alien ship remained intact. But Emma had made sure to capture some of the alien crew members alive. Humanity needed to understand Dominion technology before invading their galaxy. The interrogations were brief and effective. Within days, human scientists understood how to build ships capable of traveling between galaxies. More importantly, they had detailed information about Dominion worlds, military capabilities, and weaknesses. Empress Helen Carter stood once again in her throne room, looking out at the construction of humanity's intergalactic invasion fleet. Thousands of ships designed specifically for conquering the Andromeda Galaxy. "The first wave launches in 3 months, reported Admiral Amy Foster. 2 million ships carrying 50 million soldiers from across our empire." "What about the other galaxies the Dominion controls?" Emma Rodriguez answered from her post.